What's up everybody, Nick Wyatt here with Wyatt and Dad Cobbler Company, and today is part 2 of our series on the Allen Edmonds Normandy boots. Now in part 1, we took a deep dive into the history, influences, and why I love these boots so much. And today in part 2, we're going to be tearing these things apart, recrafting them, and reimagining what they can be. Now if you didn't see part 1 and you're interested in the history, I highly recommend going over there. But if you're just wanting to see the recrafts, you're in the right place. And before we go tearing these things apart, hit me with that montage. Today's the day. I could not be more excited. I've been waiting to get these boots recrafted for so long, and they are in desperate need. And I have them in the best of hands with Cobbler Tobias and Cobbler Tony from Wyatt and Dad Cobbler Company. They've got some really cool ideas on how to recraft and reimagine these boots today. So I'm super excited that I can sit back, relax, and watch these two guys recraft my boots. So what have you got in store for me, Tony?
Well, Nick, what we're wanting to do, is take the boot and go with some unique aspects, modernize them a little bit, but also tie in your Marine Corps experience. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the corded half sole, because it comes from World War II. It was invented for the troops over in Germany.
Can I interrupt for just a second? I'm sorry. I watched the last video, and you said that you wore these boots for like, what, 6 to 7 years?
I mean,
I don't
consecutively.
I don't want to touch these boots. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit back and watch. Instead of you relaxing, I'm going to relax, and you're going to fix your own boots.
No,
Tony, we're out of this one.
Out of it?
Yeah, we're out of this one.
Sounds good to me.
I've just started recrafting after like 15
got a week's experience, man.
Yeah, I like these boots. I want to keep these boots.
Like I said, your boots are in good hands. You're in good hands. We're going to go over every step of the process with you. I think you got this.
You got this. You can do it.
It'll make a good video.
Yeah. And if you trash the boots, they're yours.
That doesn't help.
Good luck, Tony. Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
But, like, do I start with the heels or? No? Because just. Alright. I guess start recrafting. Alright. So, what are we doing first, Tony?
Well, since we're going to take the welts off and redo everything, we don't need to really peel the boot apart layer by layer.
Okay.
So what you want to do is you want to get in between the welt here and the original midsoles.
Okay.
And cut that stitch line loose.
Okay.
I'd recommend, because these have been recrafted before, so they're glued a lot better than factory type gluing. And so I would recommend you put a little bit of a solvent on here to help weaken the cement some, so it'll be easier to get your knife in. While you're cutting around, if you feel heavy resistance, don't cut through it. That means you've tilted the knife a little bit.
Okay.
And with you tilting it a little bit, you're trying to cut into something you're not supposed to.
Like my hand.
So, well, no, like your boot.
Oh.
So
Don't do that either.
it's not that big a deal if you cut up through the sole, but you don't want to cut into the boot. So
right.
That's why we like to use this knife instead of like a razor knife, is there's a little bit more control.
Alright.
So you nicked your boot a little bit right there, but not bad. You didn't go deep. It's just a skim. So as you see, Allen Edmonds does a wooden shank in here. And that wooden shank is already cracked. And it's easy to snap. So we're going to upgrade you and put a 3-rib steel shank in.
Now, if I'm doing, by adding a steel shank, is that going to make it more supportive? Does that, I know we had talked about previously because we're putting more layers on the front and the heel, is that going to add some support to this new kind of like shape that we're doing for the boot?
Yeah, so there's two different types of support. The multiple layers that we're going to do is going to be giving you side-to-side stability, things like that. But the steel shank is going to support and keep your arch area from collapsing with a high heel, and you're going to have that thick half sole. So that area could be could overflex, and then
like a flex
it would
point.
it could hurt. It would wear out the boot and your foot.
So in all likelihood, I mean, you just broke that with your thumb pretty easily, so
Yeah.
that would probably break over time, and then pretty much the structure of the boot's just shot, right?
Right, exactly.
All right, I can see that you're clearly struggling. So let me show you what I do. Instead of pushing towards your hand like this, like you're holding the boot, I'll hold the boot up against the last, and then I'll kind of cup it and chip away at it this direction, away. So that way, if I slip, I'm not gonna pull all the way in. I'll just kind of slip right here, and I won't slip into my hand. So try digging at it like that.
Okay, Nick, you got all the cork out and everything, so if you notice here, your gimming is loose.
Yeah.
And that opens up here, and that's the dog hair got in underneath here because it was coming in through this gap.
Okay.
Which was causing you to lose some of your support in your boot after so many years of wearing them. So we don't want to misshape the boot when we re-welt it and get it to where it doesn't have a proper shape. So we want to get this re-secured back down before we take the welt off, and then that way when we go to remove the welt, we're not misshaping the boot, and then we'll put it all back together.
Okay.
And it'll be secure.
Now, what causes the gimming to kind of like come apart like that? I know that we had that cracked wooden shank. Would it be something like that where that support system's not there, or what causes the gimming to kind of come loose on a boot?
A number of things. It can be from a lot of weather exposure. If you're getting the boots wet, dry.
I did walk them in snow quite a bit at one point in time.
And that gets in, and your feet are soaking wet, and the inner sole is soaking wet.
Okay.
And then if you use heat to dry your boot, the glue is heat activated, so that activation can cause the glue to let loose. And this is a stress area, so especially with that shank being cracked like that, it added more stress. A lot of times we'll see the gimming loose up here because inner soles will get so wet they'll curl up away from it as they dry because people don't dry their boots properly.
Gotcha.
And so in this case it was probably from your getting in the snow and stuff a lot.
Gotcha.
And everything.
All right, good to know. All right.
So to make sure that you get the boot shaped properly, you want to reuse the exact same line that the manufacturer used originally, because that got all separated for a little while.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to bring it in here to this line that was impressed from the original gimming installation. Some hammering. Now your boot's back shaped the way you want it.
Right.
Now you can take the welt off.
Alright, so I'm not sure where to start.
I'll show you. Alright, so welts are put on with a chain stitch, and what that means is it's one single thread and it's just kind of looped together. So all you really want to do is start right where the welt split is. So it's one single piece of leather, so there's an end and a start, and you just want to find that split. It's pretty easy to find. It's just a split in the leather. And what I do is you take the first couple of stitches and you want to break them. Pop them out. And once you get a couple of them loose, and then you can pull your welt off, if we get lucky. Now these boots have been around a long time, so this thread might be a little dry, so we might have an issue with it breaking. But all you're going to do is now pull this without tearing your upper, of course. So if you feel like if you're pulling too hard, just stop and we'll have to pick a couple more threads out. But once you get it started like this, you should be able to just kind of pull that welt right off. Give it a shot.
Nope. Yeah, that's starting to feel some resistance right there.
Okay, no problem. I'm actually going to switch knife from a very sharp knife so I don't stab myself to this really dull knife. And then you're just going to have to do the same thing. So all it is that loop is getting stuck into that leather and not popping off of itself. Like I said, only if we get lucky will it go. It's not. The other way to go, if this gives us too much of an issue, would be just to sit there and cut all these stitches, but then you'll have to pick out all the other ends of the stitches. If we can get it all in one shot like this,
Nice.
then we're golden.
I did it!
Now, like I said, it's one continuous thread. So if you are able to come in, get this plastic out of the way, and pick one of those stitches loose, then that whole thing should come loose. Alright, so we have to hand sew all our welts on. Now, Allen Edmonds, when you send your boots back to Allen Edmonds, automatically their resews come with a new welt.
Okay.
And the reason why ours cost a little bit more, where Allen Edmonds doesn't charge for that welt necessarily, is because they have a machine that just stitches it on. It's real quick, it's really cool, it just goes brrr, and then they cut it. The disadvantage to that is that machine is not going to follow those holes from the original welt being put on, and it'll punch new holes in there, and it ends up turning this into a Swiss cheese. It perforates it like a piece of paper, easier to tear, so it's easier to tear your upper if you don't follow those holes. So we just hand sew all of it, and that way we can use all of those original holes, keep the structure of the upper intact, but it does take a really long time. So I'm going to make you do it so that I can go eat lunch or something. So to get started, we got a hand sewn thread. It's a waxed thread, and what you want to do is you want to pull 1, 2, 3 links, and that should be plenty. Then so start from this end here. And we like to put the seam, so we're going to bring that around. Like I said, it's one piece of leather, so there's going to be a butted seam. So we like to put that seam, I like to put it under the heel, at least in that waist area on the medial side, meaning the middle, the arch side. And I like to sew the welt away from me, so I'm going to go that way. And I'm just going to pick one of these holes. I'm going to pick that one, get you started. And see, there's a little groove in that welt there, and that's where your stitch is going to come down. So we got the split that's going to go up there, so the needle's going to come out in that split. So I'm going to get you started. And it goes into that upper and then into that gemming. Take our thread, hook it. This is called a jerk needle. It's got a little fish hook on the end of it. So now we got both strings even length on both sides, and then we just go into that next hole. And then what you do is on the string on the inside, you want to create a loop, and you're going to pull that loop through to the other side. And then you take the string on that side and put it through your loop and pull it all the way through. Right? And then you just pull both strings tight. And it creates a knot. And then now you want to just pull that knot and you into that middle of all that leather. You'll feel it pull tight. And then you continue and do that for the whole rest of the boot. It takes a really long time, and your fingers will start to get sore from pulling on that string. So what I like to do is tape up my finger. You don't know which fingers to tape until you figure out which ones you personally like to pull with. And there you go.
All right.
The awl is now in your hands. Have fun.
Man, it's like nothing has the right shape.
Okay, so I'm gonna stick this for you because it's really difficult to get everything centered up. Not only do you have to try to get the sidewalls lined up and not be overlapped wrong, or the toe and the heel off, but you also want to try to get the logo in the middle and everything. The way I do it is I take and lay my finger in between the sole and the midsole, and I line everything up visually before I lay it down, so we don't have the stick and peel problem. And so I come around and I check it, everything's really good. So now I want to go down the middle and do what we call a rollout because when you take a shoe or boot, pull the sole off, the upper relaxes like this, and so if you stick the edges first, you're going to have a cupping in there, and then you have a bubble under the ball of your foot.
Okay.
So by us rolling down the middle, we open that shoe back up and pull it up to the in the center to where it should be, and it relaxes the edges out to the edge and doesn't push them out too far and make it too wide.
Gotcha.
So we do the roll out, and then we work it around, and then we hammer down the center, and then we start working all of the other areas to make sure you've got a good solid bond.
Well, I'm not gonna lie to you. While you were off doing other things, I may have accidentally stuck this the wrong way a few times before you did it. So I completely understand. Those soles are super snug to that welt, and it was incredibly difficult. It's surprising how incredibly difficult it is to line that up so perfectly.
So now what we need to do is we've sewn this welt on, and it's not necessarily shaped to your boot because welts aren't proportionately a half inch all the way around the shape of the boot. So we want to get a really good shape on here, and so that your boot maintains that sleek look that you like, and everything. So, and we don't have too much excess, but we don't want to take away too much, and that really takes somebody with some good skills. So I'm going to call on our master craftsman cobbler Tobias over here, if he would come in and show you how to shape that instead of letting you do it.
Of course. Come a long way. So yeah, we'll just shape it up and prep it for stitching, and I'll walk you through, and you're going to stitch it yourself as well, right?
Yeah.
And to prep putting the half sole onto this leather, we're just going to kind of make some marks onto the leather first. So what I'm doing is similar to that kind of finger trick. I'm going to feel to make sure that this is overhanging just a little bit at the toe, so that way when I go and stick it, I don't come up short. But I'm also going to feel around and make sure I have an even spacing around that sole as well on both sides. So I want to try to get that nice and centered, and then visually I kind of want to make sure my line is all centered. And once you get it into that good spot that you want, you just lay it flat, you take your little scratch awl, and you just want to scratch a line across, and that's where we're going to rough up the sole for better adhesion, and then we'll stick it. We also do at this point want to mark where our heel is going to lay as well. That way we can rough that up too. So same thing, I like to leave just a little bit of an overhang, that way I don't ever undercut it. And so we got our mark for our sole, and then our mark for our heel, and then that's going to be our waist area. And now we'll rough these two things up since we're going to be gluing stuff to it, and go from there. Okay, so we got the sole prepped to glue the half sole on. At this point, I think I saw some of your previous work leading up to this, and I think that we're gonna take over and just do all this stuff. Anyways, we have our line pretty much lined up, so we don't have to worry too much about coming off that toe. But I do want to make sure we're squared up left and right, and then we're just gonna get our butt nice and butted up against there. And we did it so that we have a nice smooth transition from that leather to that rubber. And then just like everything else, we're gonna kind of roll it and then press out from the middle. Get rid of any air bubbles, and we'll come through and hammer it all down and press it again.
All right, got all the layers of the sole stitched onto there. Cobbler Tobias did a fantastic job. I'm so happy that they did take over some of these really, really intricate jobs that I just don't feel comfortable doing. But we're giving them a little bit of a break. Cobbler Tobias and Cobbler Tony's done all these different things, but we've got something truly special that our specialist Angel has got. Not gonna say anything more. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy. All right, we are done with the branding, and boy, oh boy, does that look good. Got our U.S. military star on there with the D-Day, and we've got that beautiful corded sole. Now it's time to pop on the heel, clean these things up, and we'll be done.
Okay, so it looks like you guys have made some really good progress on these boots. You got this cool corded sole on there, this amazing artwork. I love that touch. To kind of keep this whole like aesthetic going, we're going to be putting on some cat's paw heels. So what you want to do is really all you want to do is line up that front part, also known as the breast of the heel, and you just line that right up with the breast of the heel base.
Now I'm noticing these are a lot smaller than the heel base.
Yes, that's purposeful, because what I'm going to do for your boot is I'm going to actually kind of taper. I'm going to sand that into a taper, kind of like a logger boot. It gives it a really cool aesthetic to me. I think that will be really cool for this boot. So. So we got it sanded up. Looks really good. Again, just love it every step of the way. I'm loving it more and more. So now all we have to do is, since we've cleaned the upper, is we're going to add some edge dressing. We're going to use the Phoebing's edge dressing, and it'll give it kind of more of a stained look instead of color blocking it in. Right. It's a little bit cooler. The trick to this stuff I've learned is just to get it on there. Nice and heavy, cover your whole surface, work pretty quickly because it does dry pretty quickly. See, it'll tie in with the color of that welt now really well. It gives it that nice stained look. But the trick, so I made a mistake one time of doing this, and then I just let it dry like this, and it ends up being really heavy applied in some spots. So the trick is just to go ahead and take it and then wipe it off.
Ooh, that is looking good.
That way when it dries a nice even color. Now, what do you think?
That looks fantastic.
So we're gonna let this sit and dry, and then we'll go ahead and into conditioning the boot up. And then if you like the way it dried and you like the color of it, we'll leave it. If you don't and you want to darken it down or add any kind of patina or character to it, we can do that after the fact. So.
All right, man, these things came out fantastic. I'm utterly blown away. Now, I know you guys were saying that I was going to do all this kind of stuff, but you really stepped in and, took control, made these things just a piece of art that I'm super excited to walk around in. I couldn't have done this without Cobbler Tony and Cobbler Tobias from Wyatt Dad Cobbler Company. They put on this awesome cat's paw heel, cool corded sole. We did the cool D-Day Normandy theme. I'm going to do a huge breakdown after this. I just wanted to say a big thanks to what you guys were able to put together here today.
Happy to help. This is a fun project.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so stay tuned for those sweet after pictures, and we're going to do a quick breakdown. So there you have it, the recraft and reimagination of my Allen Edmonds Normandy boots, some of my all-time favorite boots, and I could not be more excited with the way these things turned out. And boy, oh boy, what a team effort it was by the team over here at Wyatt and Dad Cobbler Company. They paid special care with every single detail, and this thing just looks beautiful. Now, if you'll remember, the soles that I had on here before was this full leather sole with a lug sole guard and a lug heel. Very militaristic, very cool, but we wanted to go with something truly special for today. Now, we did a lot of neat little things that gave an homage back to that vintage style and that World War II aesthetic that these boots really deserved. Now, first we started with this 360-degree split welt, very similar to the ones that they had on before, but we gave this vintage kind of burnished look to it to give some nice contrast from the upper. From there, we put on a leather midsole and then the leather JR sole to give contrast between the layers, just giving this boot its own little piece of character. We put a new thick leather heel base on there, and then Cobbler Tobias give us a nice kind of logger shape that you can see, that just nice, beautiful, very subtle, but absolutely stunning shape that give this boot a little bit more style and a little bit of a different flair than it had before. Now we get to the bottom. My absolute favorite part of these boots, we've got the corded soles. Now, something really special about these corded soles. Now, this is a Vibram recreation of the old school corded soles that you saw back around World War II. And actually, out of necessity, in World War II, rubber production was at an all-time high, but rubber was scarce because of the supply lines that were going on with difficult transit during World War II. And so what you used to see in a corded sole is you can actually see the cords going through here. Now, this was a necessity because they were churning out hundreds of thousands of boots for the troops, and they were running out of rubber. So what they did is they put these cords through there that kind of limited the amount of rubber, but also gave an incredibly durable sole. Now, flash forward to today, and you've got this recreation of the corded soles of the past without the cords. However, these things are incredibly durable, and since we no longer have trouble with rubber production, there's really no need for the cords like you had back during World War II. Now, the next detail that we put to the boots are the cat's paw heels. This is a recreation of those vintage cat's paw heels that most enthusiasts know and love. We got a limited run from one of our suppliers up in Canada, and we are super excited to be able to add this to this vintage aesthetic that we're going for with these Normandy boots. It's got the cool cat's paw logo and these inserts that are the non-slip inserts that cat's paw is known for. These things started in around 1904, and then they were bought by Built-Right in 1961, swallowed up by Vibram soon after that. Not too long after that, you didn't really see these things anymore. So enthusiasts absolutely know and love these things, but don't worry, these aren't old heels, these are new heels that we got not that long ago. Now, a small tie-in to World War II with the cat's paw heels are the logos that they put, and this was created actually in 1941, the same year as Pearl Harbor, and that's just a cool another piece of history that gets to be tied in to some of my favorite boots. Now, last but absolutely not least was the burn work done by Angel over here. She put the military star and that D-Day insignia to tie in the Normandy to give an homage to those troops that fought and died and sacrificed everything for us during D-Day. Man, I absolutely love the way these things came out. The yellow stitches just kind of remind me of that military yellow. We've got cool brass work that Cobbler Tobias did. Just every single little detail about the way these boots came out. I mean, they just sing. I absolutely cannot wait to get these things on. And what a great way to highlight the Allen Edmonds Normandy boots. Hey there friends, thanks for watching our video. Hope you like what you saw here today. If you did, drop a comment below. Let us know what you thought about the Allen Edmonds Normandy Recraft. Hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Hit that little alert button so you can know when we've got new content posted, like our boot history and our recraft and reviews. And until then, we'll see you next time.